So let's talk about more about K consciousness or conscious
Or KiConscious.
KiConscious, and your clients and what you do exactly. Since we talked about it a lot briefly, but let's talk about it a little bit more and tell me more about that.
Okay. What you would actually see if you were an observer in my space or on the Zoom call. I really do like to do in-person work. We all had to learn to work over Zoom, and in some cases, it's just not possible to make myself accessible to a client in Europe or in Canada without Zoom, unless they fly me there. And that does happen, but it's not. That does not make it widely accessible. Picture me sitting at the desk or in the chair, and someone sitting across from me, and me asking questions, and them answering, and then me interpreting and reacting. The difference between what I do and therapy, because it's not therapy, I'm not a licensed therapist, I'm not a licensed psychologist, is that I don't just ask questions for self-discovery and write it down. I react to it. So if something is disturbing to me, I will drill down. If something does not ring as true to me, as uppercase truth, not just a version of truth, I will challenge that and see how that's received. In many cases, part of that conversation is me trying to find ways to lower barriers or trying to find a doorway in when the door is locked. And the tools that I use for that, I work with crystals. I am a tarot reader and teacher, so I'll occasionally work with tarot cards. I'll work with sound. I'll work with guided meditation to help the client reach a place during the session that is calmer and creates more of a feeling of trust so that they will let me in. And when I say let me in, I often channel during sessions. I actually had one client who explained to me what happens to my face when I'm channeling during the session.
Channeling spirits.
Or channeling conscious energy.
Oh, energy. Okay.
Might be spirits.
Okay.
And if it is spirits, it might be their guides. It might be my guides. It might be information from the Akashic records or somewhere out in the atmosphere, if you will. And we don't know where the source, I don't know what the source is. In some cases, I have to do sort of my own fact check to make sure that the information that's coming in isn't biased or isn't designed to trick me or to trick them, because I don't know if it's my team, my people, or their people.
Okay.
And sometimes their people are designed to keep the trickery going, if you will.
Right.
So I'm not afraid to use the word spirits. It's just that there are a lot of energetic elements that aren't necessarily spirits.
Just
that are out there.
They're just out and about.
Vibration. We'll say vibrations.
Okay.
And tapping into a certain frequency. It's almost like turning a dial on an old radio and trying to get a certain channel. You're hearing all those other channels. So I need to be sure that I'm hearing the channel that is about the client and not listening to any stuff that I call garbage.
And that's what you hear?
Yes.
You kind of hear static in a way or frequencies.
I will typically hear voices, in other words, English audible messages, or I will see pictures that, and this is, by the way, how psychics and intuitives receive information. Some will hear it, some will see it, some will feel it, and all of those things happen during the KiConscious session. That's why actually behind the person that I'm speaking to is always a plain wall. And sometimes I'll be staring beyond them and looking at the wall. And that's because I'll sometimes see images on the wall, almost like a psychic would use a black mirror or another reflective object.
They are on another side. So you're on one side and they're on another side.
Of the room, yes.
Okay.
And I'm just looking, I'm looking at them, but when I look at them, I throw them out of focus. And when I throw them out of focus, that's when I see the good stuff.
Okay. Would you say you're a psychic?
I would say that I have psychic capabilities. I don't call myself anything. I have a real challenge labeling myself. I think we are a society of labels. And when if you were to say, psychic, I picture a neon sign with a Hamsa hand blinking outside of a space.
You got one right over there on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, yes. So, we have a blue marquee that says the word psychic in uppercase
It
letters.
doesn't get any more.
Right, yeah. There is nothing wrong with that. Sometimes there are practitioners inside those walls that I believe to be credible that have gifts. The greatest challenge I've discovered over the years, because I go to those as well, not the neon ones, nothing against neon signs, but I will go to other professionals to seek information or to seek reading from them. And I've encountered my share of charlatans. I've encountered my share of frauds. And I've mostly encountered people who, when they seek to monetize their abilities and they overschedule themselves, it is, in my opinion, virtually impossible to rapidly connect with spirit for a 27-minute window in a 30-minute reading and have the energy flow freely back to back 6-8 clients a day. It just is not a physical, mental, or cognitive possibility, and yet the show must go on.
Yeah.
So it's challenging to wade through that sometimes.
So if you were standing outside this psychic, just outside.
Oh, I feel bad that we're going to pick on them.
But if we're standing right outside that psychic shop, is it a shop? Store?
I suppose it is. Yeah. I call it a storefront.
Storefront.
Who knows what goes on inside?
Could you feel the energy, the vibrations?
No.
From the outside?
No. It isn't that those locations are an energetic storehouse. They might be. I mean, I had someone, a regular client, who said, "Are you aware that when I come over, as I approach the KiConscious space, from the time I come through the gate, I start to feel an energy shift." And I was proud of them for being conscious of energy shifts around them, because that's really what the whole purpose of KiConscious is. But also, I thought, I don't know what it is. It might be the previous client, as I do sage after every client to try to neutralize the energies. Could be my energy, or it could be that there's about 300 crystals in this space and a lot of aromatherapy oils. So I have no idea what impacts another person's perception of energy. So if you walk across the street and you stand outside there, I can't predict that you're going to be feeling something in particular, but it's probably not going to be the energy of the person sitting behind the crystal ball.
Okay. So if you don't feel anything, it's fraud.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
No.
I get it and envision when someone's doing this, is kind of like someone off like the X-Men, like when the mutants, and when they use a lot of their superpower, their mutant power, they're drained. They have nothing left. Is it something like that in a way? Like when you have a session, say it's taking a lot of energy and it's long, over a few hours, you feel drained, and you felt like mentally and physically drained?
Z, I have to say, I love your questions. They make me think about things that I normally keep in my own head. So thank you. The best way to explain my process is that I will start to tap into a client's energy well before they arrive. And I don't want to censor this. Basically, I do it in the shower. I'm very triggered by water, whether it's the ocean, whether it's a lake, or whether it's the running water in a shower. And I will usually ask for my guides to begin giving me information, or to go in and access my client's sphere of energy before they arrive. And I will usually get an agenda. It might be an agenda that they have decided they want to talk about that morning. It might be something that their guides or my guides are saying, this is what needs to be on the list today. And I'll write those things down after I get out of the shower. I do not have a waterproof notepad, although they exist. And I will offer that to the client when they first arrive and say, let me tell you what I got this morning, and you tell me what you got, and then let me know where we're going to go. We don't have to talk about these things, but they're things that I'm just going to pull this out of my head. One time I saw a seagull flying and it landed on the water, and I thought, I have no idea what this means. And I mentioned it to the client. I asked the client, and they said, I saw that this morning.
So that was a vision? Or
Yeah,
that,
yes, but it was a vision of what they actually were looking at that morning when they were doing their beach walk before they came over.
no,
So
but you had this vision.
yes,
And in the shower.
yes,
Okay.
but I didn't know what it meant,
Okay.
and I didn't want to interpret like it was a bird. So what does a bird mean
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
dream, for example? I didn't want to go that far because I had no idea of the context. I can't decide what information is without the client as my partner. So I'll explain what I saw. I'll
Okay.
explain what I'm told, what I
Yeah.
hear, what I see, and then say,
Like a psychic.
help me. I'll say, help me make sense of this.
Yeah. And they said, they saw
They
a
said,
seagull.
that's what they said. You were seeing what I was looking at when I walked down the beach. And I went, okay, so I was tapped into you this morning. That's great, because let me tell you what else I saw or felt. And then that we might talk about that for 10, 15 minutes out of the session, and then it's gone. We'll just go into something else. You asked me if it drains me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What drains me is the doors being closed and me using my energy to try to open them just to get in and then have the discussion, or then help them have the discovery, or help them connect to their toolkit. So I find that resistance is what drains me. The connecting to the spiritual energy or using my mind to help guide them in a very real world way that has nothing to do with the spiritual realm, I find that energizing. What I do need to do with at the end of a session is disconnect from that client's energy, because if that comes with me into another session or comes with me into my own life, then I'm not fully present and conscious. I'm not living the KiConscious modality because their energy is pulling me, or I'm still giving part of myself to their energy.